Legion series premiere, chapter 1. Now, I gotta say, this show started off and it was just crazy. Like it was an hour and a half long episode, and the whole thing I felt was just like confusing because we're jumping back and forth through time, and then the most confusing thing in this whole episode was when they switched bodies, but then they switched back out, like kind of like out of nowhere. It was almost like the power wore off, but they literally switched bodies. They didn't switch, like mentally they didn't switch back like I would have expected them to. They actually switched bodies back. So their mind stayed in the same place, but their bodies physically switched to new locations. And I was like, how the F does that work? I've never seen that before. And it was just a crazy like journey through this guy's head where it starts off, like, I love the opening to this where it starts off with him as a baby and it shows him growing up and how things get like progressively worse, and we see glimpses throughout of this other personality. I think we see a couple of them, but I think in this episode they really focus on like the really creepy looking one, which I believe he calls like the devil with the yellow eyes. And I like that. I thought it was a really great opening, and then it goes into him like in the ward, which I thought was interesting. And it was just crazy. Like, just the whole episode, it was like, alright, well, how's this gonna play out? And so it starts off where he's just there, and it's the 70s and stuff. And that was something I wondered because they didn't focus on it a lot, but I was like, based on how everything looks, I'm pretty sure this is set in like the 70s or the 60s actually. And you definitely know, like, once they actually show him in the mental hospital, I was like, yeah, this is definitely like either the 60s or 70s. It's probably the 60s. And it starts off normal. It's like, okay, so he's in the hospital, and it's him and his buddy, and they're just there. And then he meets this girl that he like instantly falls for, and they actually end up having a relationship. And it goes on a little bit, and then we like jump into the future where we find out, well, I guess it's the present technically, where we find out that he's now with this random group, and they're trying to figure out how some character died. So it's like, we don't know if it's supposed to be the girl that he fell for that ended up dying, or if it's someone else, which unfortunately we find out it's Aubrey Plaza's character, who I can't remember anyone's name at this point, but it was not what I expected. I didn't think that her character would basically be dead the whole series. Like, she's dead within, I think, the first 45 minutes. They show her like inside the wall, and I was like, oh, her entire role in this series is as an illusion in Legion's head. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But she ends up dying, and we find out that after, and I believe his name is David, after he kisses the girl whose name is Sydney, I remember their names, I can't remember like his friend's name, but after they kiss, we find out why she didn't like people touching her, and it's because she's a mutant, and that she actually switches bodies with people if she physically touches them, and it's like instantaneous. So they kiss, and they just instantly switch bodies, and not only do they switch bodies, but she's able to take his power. So I thought that was very interesting. It wasn't his mind completely transferring. It was almost like, well, I guess that makes sense because it's technically the mutant gene, so it is within his body and not just his brain. But I thought that was so interesting where they switch bodies, and he's freaking out. He's like, holy crap, like, I'm her now. And that explains why she didn't want people touching touching her. And then she goes crazy because I thought it was still him. I just assumed that he kissed her, and because he had been like wanting that for such a long time, it kind of just triggered something in him, and it just like unlocked a part of his brain, and it kind of made him go crazy. And then we find out, no, it's actually she went crazy because she got trapped inside of his body and like almost instantaneously got sent into this spiral of these split personalities, and like lost control of his power, shot everybody through the walls, like melted all the doors away, and turned every room into just a block room, and ended up killing his friend and stuff. And it was just really crazy. I was like, I did not expect that. And we go through like these little stories, once it starts jumping back and forth as this random company. We still don't know who these people are, if it's going to be like a Marvel thing, or if they're just making up this random organization that wants to take mutants or something. We don't really know. Like, there are a million possibilities if they want to do it as an actual company from the universe. But at this point, it's just some random people. They have them locked up in this room, and they're trying to get the story and trying to figure out, all right, where is she at? That's pretty much all they want. It's like they're trying to get him, they're trying to get her. They basically want to capture all mutants and experiment on them, or just flat out kill them if they're too powerful, because they do mention that. And it just gets crazier once we get to the part where he kind of loses it, which they have some great visuals, and that's kind of what I was looking forward to in this show. And they show off the ones that were in the trailer just in this episode, with like the really crazy explosions where everything's like blowing up around him, and the scene where he does lose it in the room, and he almost like, he basically like disintegrates the table. Really, it wasn't like he flipped it and it shattered or something. Like he basically tears it apart, piece by piece, and it shatters pretty much. And I just thought that was really cool. But they have to sit him in the pool, and then we get to, it's just getting crazier and crazier, because it's like, all right, so we're doing a flashback and stuff, or so we think. And he's like, all right, well, this is what happened. I was trying to find the girl. I turn around, I see these two random people, the same two people that got out of the car. So he sees them, and he's freaking out, so he takes off, and he's trying to hide from them. And then he turns and he sees this guy with Sydney's head on the back of his head, and she's like, keep moving. And so he's flipping out. He's like, what in the world's happening? And she's like, I'm not really here. First thing I thought was, okay, this is one of his personality things happening. He's made a personality of her, kind of like he did with his friend. That's kind of what I was expecting. Like, okay, he somewhat made a personality of her inside his own head to try to tell him, like, hey, you're not actually living this moment. This is just a memory. And then we find out that that was just somebody else's mutant powers. Like, she actually was projecting into his head, because at first, like I said, I thought he just made her up because we find out it's not actually a flashback. So that was interesting in itself, where it's like, oh, she's actually there. Because at some point, I'm like, I'm not sure what we're seeing. Like, I don't know what is or is not real either, because I can't tell with this guy. Some stuff is real, some stuff is not. He has flashbacks. He is just remembering stuff. Like, they make certain scenes seem like they're flashbacks, and then we find out he's actually just within his own memory, and they projected a memory, or projected someone back into one of his actual memories. So it's crazy. So it was very confusing going through it, but it was actually kind of cool. And then we get to the end sequence, where they come in and they try to rescue him. He drops into the pool, and I don't know whose power that was, but I loved it, where it's like they just flash fried the entire place, and it's just like dead bodies, which are basically just charred skeletons, falling into the pool. And then I love the sequence when she like puts her hand out and he's in the water, and he's flashing and he's seeing her as somebody else, and then it's like 3 or 4 different people like switch places within the span of like 2 seconds, because he's flashing from where he is right now back to the mental hospital, and people are like switching places and stuff. And I was like, I actually like that, because that's his character. He's so distraught, and he's having all these flashes all at once of what is and what happened, and he doesn't even know what's real, and he has to actually ask that question during the ending sequence. So I like what they did with the show. This first episode, I gotta say though, it was very confusing going through. I was like, I don't know what to think of this show. I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not like it. And it was just like, it was just basically an hour and a half worth of just mystery, trying to figure out what the actual story is, because we don't know what really happened and what didn't happen, because he's crazy. So it was like, I don't know if this really happened, or if this is something he thought happened, and then, they reveal certain truths, like the guy mentions, like, I wasn't at the car, like, that was not me. And then by the end of the episode, it's revealed that that wasn't him. It was not even a guy, it was a woman. So there's just crazy stuff there where it's like, who knows what is and is not truly happening. But I think that might actually be a good element to the show. Considering this is the first episode, maybe that's why it was just so crazy, because it was just jumping around through time. Maybe that'll keep happening. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm excited for where they're headed with this show. It was a very interesting first episode. It's certainly confusing, and it was just like, going through it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. Like, it was just so crazy and weird that I was just like, I don't know. But I like the way it changed at the end of this episode, because I wasn't sure what to expect, to be totally honest. I was like, this seems like this could be the show where he leaves here and then it's just him being crazy out in the world, and how's that going to play out. But the way they end the episode, I really enjoyed it, because he escapes, and so we have him actually joining up with this group of other mutants. And so I'm very excited to see what happens there. And with the promo, they talk about how the leader, she has all sorts of crazy secrets and stuff, and David has to figure out what he can really do in this situation, how he can utilize his powers, how he can really control his powers, and also some of his inner demons. Like, they have the demon with the yellow eyes in the background when the woman's like, join us, and she extends her hand, and he kind of turns, and it's like in this little corner in the background, and I like that. And he shows up throughout the episode as like the darkest part of him when he's distraught, and like that's the part that really messes with him. So at this point, it seems like that's the only personality they're really going with, and it's not like, super crazy Legion, but I don't know. It's hard to say, is his friend actually another personality for him, or, it's just hard to say. With him being psychic and also having, the split personalities, it's hard to say, because that's what, like I said, I thought that's what they were doing with Sydney, where it's like he made another personality within his own head. So I think that's kind of what they're doing with his friend, where she's basically another personality, and at this point she can't take over, but I feel like that might end up happening just because of his character and what little I know about him from the comics as well. So I am excited for this show. Excuse me. It was a crazy first episode. I feel like it might not be for everybody, and that's the one thing that I have with it, because like I said, it was so crazy. Even I was like, I'm interested, but I'm like, I just don't know. It's so crazy, and it works. Like, it's a crazy thing to not like, but at the same time, it's like it was done perfectly when you really think about it, because especially if you know the character. Like, if you don't know, this episode is just like, this show seems like it's nothing but confusion, but considering who the character is from the comic books, it was done perfectly. As far as I'm concerned, I'm like, this is actually like one of the best ways this character could possibly be made in a TV show. So they did a fantastic job with the personalities and how him, not knowing what is and is not real, them jumping through time and making it even more confusing. Because if they followed through with the actual story, it would just be like, oh, this is just a crazy story. But with them jumping through time a lot, it makes it confusing. It's like, what really happened, and what did he see, and what really did he experience? Because there were parts, like when they were in bed and she woke him up in the middle of the night just to sleep next to him because she was leaving. When that scene started, I was like, is this even happening? Because I wasn't sure. I was like, how did she escape? Like, is that even real? And then she talked about leaving and stuff, and I was like, okay, maybe this did actually happen. So they did a great job with it, but I can definitely see this show maybe turning some people off with this first episode, where it's just like so much at once, where they're jumping through time and you're just confused all the way through until like the very end, where you're like, okay, this is the official line of exactly what happened. I'm still confused about the body swapping thing. Like, how in the world did he end up switching bodies back? Because I thought when he saw himself, it wasn't going to be his actual body. Like, he would think that he was in his own body, and he'd go to his sister's house and he'd still be Sydney. But it was like, nope, they actually did switch bodies. In like this random moment, they literally switched bodies again out of nowhere. So I was like, alright, that still confuses me, but I did like this episode, and I'm excited to see where they take this show. I'm excited to see how crazy it gets, and what they are going to do with the story, because it's not at all what I thought. First off, they killed off one of the main characters that I thought was going to be a part of the show. Secondly, he's not in the mental hospital. I thought that was going to be like the whole series, or at least a big part of it, and it's like, nope, that was just the first episode. So like, this entire promo that we've been watching for months now, at least from what I can remember, every single scene in the promo has been from this first episode. So I have no clue where we're headed. The hospital isn't a part of the actual series. One of the characters isn't even alive. She's just possibly a new personality in his head. And now we have a group of mutants that have taken him in. So I don't know where we're headed, but I am excited for this show. It's a confusing and really crazy first episode, but I enjoyed it, and I am excited to see where they go with it. FX always has some amazing shows, typically really funny shows like Archer and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia are two of my favorites, but they've also had some amazing serious shows. Most of them I haven't watched, but for those of you who watched Justified, that was my favorite show when it was on TV. It was like the only thing to ever be like my favorite show outside of the series Supernatural. So I'm excited to see where they head with this show, and how much darker it's gonna get, because they got kind of dark at the ending scene where they like flash right all those people, and then it's just like a crazy battlefield, and the guy's just like whipping stuff, and I love that because it wasn't like he struggled where you see it in most shows where they have to struggle to lift stuff. He was just like, whoop, and he's just like pushing people like it was nothing. He's grabbing rocks and he's just flicking them. It was so nonchalant. I was like, man, he must be really powerful, because every other show where somebody has to use their telekinetic powers, they have to like struggle just to hold a person up, and he's just like, whoop, and people be flying like 30 feet off into the background. I was like, yeah, that's pretty strong. He's just like flicking rocks into walls. I think the first thing he did when they blew out the wall, it was like a tank or something. He was just like, and it just flew right behind him. And I loved how simple his movements were, and it was like a crazy battlefield segment where they have to get down, to the water. So I'm excited to see where we're headed with this show. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this crazy first episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. And of course, I want to know if you guys are interested in checking the show out. Whether you know Legion from the comic books. Maybe you saw him. I think he's only had like one, possibly two animated appearances as far as like, X-Men cartoons. But whether you know the character or not, I would love to know how you guys feel about this first episode, and if the crazy jumping around stuff and not knowing what's real and is not real threw you off, or if that made you even more invested, or you surprised like me that everything we saw in the promo was just this one episode and the show is like nothing you expected. Because that's where I'm at right now. I'm like, I don't even have an idea at this point. Like, they're gonna fight this other organization. That's all I can think of, because I seriously thought it was gonna be about them in the mental hospital for a while and him just dealing with the different personalities and abilities. So who the heck knows at this point? But like I said, would love to know if you guys are actually going to stick with this show, or if you're not 100% sure. And of course, I want to know what you guys just thought about all the craziness in this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.